Hello and welcome to the world of semantics. In this lesson, we will talk about origin of semantics, meaning of semantics, definitions, and types of semantics. Let's discuss the topic. Let's first talk about origin of semantics. The term semantics is derived from Greek word semantikos, meaning significant or meaningful. And what is meaningful is important. What is meaningful is significant. What is meaningful is to be understood in all its concept and idea. That is the point here. Now, let's understand general meaning of semantics. Semantics is the study of meaning in language. It investigates, it examines, it analyzes. In other words, you can say it studies how words, phrases, sentences, and other symbols convey information, convey ideas, convey meaning, convey message, and how that information is interpreted, how that message is interpreted, how that meaning is interpreted. That is the idea here. Now we move on to the next stage of our discussion. Definitions of semantics. Semantics is the study of how languages organize and express meanings. This definition is given by Charles W. Kreidler. We have another definition. Semantics is the study of literal, decontextualized grammatical meaning. And this definition is given by David Frawley. We move on to our next level of discussion, that is types of semantics. We have many types, but they are the most important ones. The first one is lexical semantics. Second one is compositional semantics. Third one is contextual semantics. And fourth one is formal semantics. Now let's discuss each one of them in detail. Lexical semantics. What is this? It focuses on the meaning of individual words, and individual words are technically referred to in linguistics as lexemes and their relationships. So in lexical semantics, we focus upon the meaning of the individual words and how individual words play the role in the making of a sentence, in giving the meaning of the sentence. For example, this room is big. Take this sentence and the words and talk about the meaning of each word individually. What is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of room? What is the meaning of is? And what is the meaning of big? And see the relationship between this room. Why we use this? Because room is singular. If room is in the plural form, we will change this into these. So in lexical semantics, our focus is upon meaning of the individual words and their relationships and how they help us form the meaning of the sentence. It's straightforward, no complexity, nothing like that. Take another example. The laptop is black, and you can derive the meaning of individual words simply in a straightforward manner, and there is no complication, there is no hidden meaning. So lexical semantics basically is all about deriving the meaning of the individual words and the relationship between words in conveying the meaning of the sentence. Now we talk about types of lexical semantics. We have synonymy, we have antonymy, hypernym, hyponymy, metonymy, and polysemy. These are 6 most important types of lexical semantics, but I'm not going to discuss each one of them here in this discussion. Otherwise, this lesson will be very long. Maybe in future or in my next video lesson, I will talk about each one of them. Now we move on to the next stage of our discussion, that is compositional semantics, because here we are talking about types of semantics. The first one we have already talked about, lexical semantics, and the second one is compositional semantics. What is this? It studies how the meanings of individual words combine to form the meaning of larger units like phrases, clauses, and sentences. Look, in any sentence we have words, but mere words do not make up sentence. First, a collection of words, a group of words form a constituent known as phrase. Then a group of phrases make a constituent known as clause. And then clauses help us form sentence. That is the point here. Let's try to understand through examples. For example, old Sam sunbathed beside a stream. This is one long sentence. We can divide this sentence into phrases. Of course, this sentence has words. And we have so many words like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words this sentence has. But first we will divide them into constituents. Phrases like old Sam, one chunk of ideas, one block of ideas, one phrase. Then sunbathed, this is another phrase. Then beside a stream, this is another phrase. And putting all these phrases together, it forms a sentence, what we call compositional semantics. Take another example. If you work hard, you will pass. This example, we have a larger constituent clause. We have one dependent clause and another independent clause. And together we make a sentence. So compositional semantics is all about studying the meaning of individual words which combine into phrases, phrases combine into clauses, and then clauses help us form a sentence. That is the point here. Now we should talk about types of compositional semantics. What are they? We have phrasal semantics, clausal semantics, and sentential semantics. Of course, we are not going to discuss about all these types here at this stage. So we continue our discussion to the next stage of our types of semantics, that is contextual semantics. In other words, this is also known as pragmatics. What is this? It is centrally concerned with contextual meaning, because meaning is understood through context, through situation, through a background. It studies how context influences the interpretation of meaning in communication. Look, no communication does ever take place without the context, without the situation, without the background. At the moment I am recording my lesson, I am using sentences, I am speaking in a way I should speak. The way I speak, this has a background, this has a context, this has a situation, and this background, this situation is helping me to speak in the way I am delivering my speech at the moment. Most of our utterances, most of our interactions happen in the background of some context. We continue. While semantics, not semantics in general, here I can say while lexical semantics deals with the literal meaning of words and sentences in isolation, what the dictionary says, pragmatics, what we call contextual semantics, deals with what a speaker means by an utterance in a specific situation. So any utterance, any speech act that you deliver is to be understood through a proper context. If context is missing, you are most likely to make mistakes in interpretation of the meaning of that message. That is very important to keep in mind. Let's try to understand this idea through some examples. For example, it's cold in here. Suppose I am in the room and the window is open and cold wind is blowing outside, and I say in this background, in this context, in this situation, it's cold in here, isn't it? Then the listener will think that I am asking in another way to tell him to close the window. Take another example to understand this idea. Suppose there is a bottle of water on the table in front of you, and I enter the room and I look at the bottle and I say, I feel thirsty. You would think that this person is asking for water to drink, but because of being shy, he is not asking, please give me the bottle of water. So sometimes if I say I feel thirsty, the someone who understands me will understand the idea of like, I want to drink water, so please give me a glass of water or a bottle of water. So in this way you can speak so many utterances in the context, in the situation where you don't directly say the thing you want to say, but use an interpretation, an utterance which conveys the meaning to the listener, that what really exactly you mean by that. We move on to the next, that is types of pragmatics, what we call contextual semantics. What is that? Conversational pragmatics, speech act pragmatics, referential pragmatics, and discourse pragmatics. Of course, I'm not going to talk about all these types in detail because our topic of discussion is types of semantics. So we move on to the next stage of our discussion, that is formal semantics. What is that? It is the study of how linguistic expressions such as words, phrases, and sentences can mean logically and rationally. It studies meaning in language using the tools of logic, mathematics, and formal systems. Formal semantics is all about how words, phrases, and sentences can be interpreted logically, rationally, without the influence of any context and background. It does not rely on intuition or cultural context for its meaning. Let's try to understand this through an example. What is that? Every student read a book. What does it mean? Does it give one meaning or does it give two meanings? Think about this. In my opinion, this sentence provides us two types of meanings. The first type of meaning is like, did every student read the same one book? Means the book is one and every student read the same book. Or does it mean, did every student read a book individually? Like every individual student has a book and everyone is reading or read. So what is involved here is our logic, our rationale in interpreting the sentence, and this is known as formal semantics. Accuracy of interpretation, accuracy of meaning, in a way the subject matter of mathematics is dealt with. Now we move on to the types of formal semantics. What are they? Operational semantics, denotational semantics, and axiomatic semantics. I hope you understand the concept. Thank you and goodbye.